Hi all, this is me going over some practice problems for the chapter on advanced object-oriented programming. So I'm just going to do a video where I'm going to go over each one of these files. I'll probably split each one of the number files up into separate videos. But let's just start off going over into file number 1. And there's no practice problems here. I just want to briefly cover the main 3 design patterns that you're going to see in the rest of these practice files. And the way they're broken down is that there's 2 main kind of separate concepts. One is association, and this is just where you have one object have another object inside of it of a different class, and there's 2 different ways you can do it. And this first one is aggregation, where you create 2 objects existing independently, and then you put one inside the other. And composition is just where you create one object inside the other one as you create the other one. The third option is inheritance, and that's where you have a parent and a child, and the child can inherit attributes and methods from the parent. So let me just show a brief example of all 3 of these, and it'll make more sense once we actually just get to actually practicing them over here. So I'm going to do this pretty quick, and then we'll have separate videos for each one of these other files over here. So if you go down here to aggregation, you'll notice that I have a book and a library class. And it's really simple. There's not too much going on in either one of them. But we can make book objects over here. I'm going to put these book objects inside of a list. And then right here, I'm making a library object that has this list of books, which includes the book objects, right? So if I were to run this, for example, I now have a library object here that is holding book objects inside of it. That's the key point. So we have one object of a specific class, and then inside of that, we have it holding objects of a different class. That's the entire point, and because we made the objects separately, I can access the book title of this book object, and I can also access it inside of the library. So if I go into the library, the list of books, and its title, I can see that same book title there. So I can access it either way. I can access it directly from the original object, or after I put it inside this library object, I can access it through there. So that is an example of aggregation. Composition is really similar. It's just that rather than making 2 different objects independently and then putting one inside the other, here we're going to make one object inside of the other one. So here I have a library card class. So that just has a card number, and that's it. Then we have a library member. So this is like if someone signs up for a library, we're going to keep track of their name as well as a library card, and we're just going to randomly generate a number, just as a quick example. It's probably not the best, most robust way to actually do that in the real world, but just as a brief example, that works. So we have library member. We're going to make Bob be a library member, and I'm going to step into this. So you can see that we're going to give him the name of Bob as an instance variable here. But then library card is going to become a library card object right here. So we're creating an entirely different type of object inside of library member. And the point is that the only way I can get to the library card is through the member object, right? So we have the same instance variables that we could access before, like name. But if I want the card number, which is an instance variable inside of a library card object, because I made it inside this object, I can only access it through it. So I can only get to card number if I first go through member, then get to the library card object stored inside of member, which then has the card number stored inside. So this, for example, I'm not even going to run it. I could not access the library card outside of the context of the member because it's just not attached to it. So that's a quick little summary of that. Then this last one is inheritance. So notice that I have library member as one class, and then I have librarian who inherits from library member. So we specify an inheriting a class that we're going to inherit from by putting it in parentheses after we declare the class name here. So all this means is that we're going to, in fact, let me just run it and we'll go into more detail when I actually go into the detailed files about these concepts. But I can create library members just like we have always before. I can also create a librarian, and notice what happens here if I step into this. Because librarians inherit from library member, that means they can reference their super or parent class. So I can access the original classes in here. And so I can print out, for example, the library name. And I can do something like describe role. And depending on what type of object it is, it's going to run either the librarian version or the library version. And I don't have to change the name of the method. And this is just known as a polymorphism, is the idea of this. So we will go over more specific examples of all three of these patterns in the next files contained within here. And I'll go into more details because I know that was a little bit quick. So that's the first file here, and then we'll record a new video for the next one.